I'm currently a senior in high school and live in a pretty nice town in North Carolina. It all started a year ago when I was 16. At the time, I was working at Starbucks as a barista. It was Thursday, and surprisingly, the cafe was almost empty. A few minutes before the end of my shift, one of my colleagues informed me that a cute guy was there to see me. I was confused because I didn't have a boyfriend, and I couldn't imagine that a guy could be interested in me. As I turned around, I recognized the boy instantly. It was Henry, my dad's best friend's son. He's 3 years older than me and enjoyed making me feel miserable, calling me fat and ugly among other things. For obvious reasons, seeing him at my workplace didn't make me happy. But Henry said he was there to apologize for being a jerk and confessed that he really liked me but didn't know how to act around me. Being the naive girl that I was, I accepted his apology. From that moment on, we kept in touch every day. He sent me good morning and good night texts, gave me cute nicknames, and did everything couples do, but he never asked me to be his girlfriend. He would introduce himself to others as my one true love. I should have seen the red flags from the start. He started showing up at my place without asking, at least once a week. I lived alone with my dad, who liked Henry, so he didn't mind his constant presence. After a few months, I decided to call it off because he was being very possessive. He was jealous of my girlfriends, and I discovered he was still in contact with his ex-girlfriend. His reaction wasn't what I expected. He shrugged and said, "Whatever you want, babe." I didn't want him to be hurt, but his nonchalant attitude was worrying. I thought the story would end there, but I was wrong. Even after the breakup, he kept coming over and taking naps on my bed while I wasn't home. When I confronted him, he said he came to see my dad or that we were still friends. What bothered me was that if he hadn't been wearing his strong cologne, I wouldn't have known he had been in my room. I told my dad that Henry and I weren't together anymore and that he had no right to come over, but my dad just laughed and said I was being a drama queen. Things got worse. Henry started following me everywhere. I noticed it a few weeks ago, but I'm sure it had been happening for some time. He would follow my car to school or park his truck in the Starbucks parking lot whenever I was working. He would peek through my bedroom window and even leave handprints that I only noticed after some time. I didn't realize the extent of it until one morning when I saw his truck as I walked out of my house. That morning, I connected the dots. My gut feeling going into a frenzy whenever I was out, the handprints on my window, and the times my car tires were slashed all pointed to Henry. When the realization hit me, a shiver ran down my spine. I felt paralyzed and tears fell down my face. I decided to talk to someone about it. I told my friend Tyler, who was studying law. He told me I couldn't do anything because I had no concrete proof, it would just be my word against Henry's. Now, I'm stuck because I don't know what to do. I tried to take pictures of his car, but due to the lack of light in my neighborhood, I never managed to get a clear shot. Whenever he was parked in front of my house and we made eye contact, he would drive off. I haven't seen him in 3 days, but my gut feeling is still making me go crazy. A few days later, I was closing up the Starbucks when I saw his truck parked outside. My heart sank. I quickly finished my shift and asked my manager if I could leave through the back door. I didn't want to face him. As I walked out, I saw his truck slowly following me. I ran to my car, locked the doors, and drove off. I could see his headlights in my rearview mirror, following me all the way home. I didn't sleep that night, terrified that he might be lurking outside. I finally decided to call the police. I reported the stalking, the slashed tires, and the handprints on my window. They took my statement but said there wasn't much they could do without more evidence. I felt helpless. I started seeing a counselor to help with my anxiety and fear. She suggested I keep a detailed log of every encounter with Henry, take pictures when possible, and always be aware of my surroundings. One night, I woke up to the sound of tapping on my window. My heart pounded as I looked outside and saw Henry standing there, smiling. I grabbed my phone and called the police. While I was on the phone, he disappeared into the darkness. The police arrived and searched the area but found nothing. They advised me to get a restraining order. The next day, I filed for a restraining order. It was granted, and Henry was served with the papers. For a while, things seemed to calm down. He stopped showing up at my house and at Starbucks. I started to feel a little safer. But the fear never really left me. I installed security cameras around my house and got a dog for protection. Months passed without any sign of Henry. I started to believe that the nightmare was over. But one night, I came home to find my front door unlocked. I knew I had locked it before leaving. I called the police and waited in my car until they arrived. They searched the house and found no one, but it was clear someone had been inside. They found a note on my bed that read, "I'll always be watching." The police took the note and increased patrols around my neighborhood. I moved in with my aunt for a while, too scared to stay at home alone. My life was turned upside down by this ordeal. I was constantly looking over my shoulder, fearing that Henry would come back. Despite everything, I tried to carry on with my life. I went to school, worked at Starbucks, and tried to act normal. But the fear was always there, lurking in the back of my mind. I knew that Henry was out there somewhere, watching and waiting. The experience left me traumatized, but also more aware and cautious. This story is a reminder to trust your instincts and take action when something feels off. Don't let anyone make you feel unsafe. Always be vigilant and protect yourself, because you never know when an ordinary day can turn into a nightmare. Story 2. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon when I decided to visit my favorite Starbucks for a cup of coffee. Sitting by the window, I enjoyed a rich latte while watching the bustling streets of Washington. The cafe wasn't too crowded. Almost all the seats were taken, yet it still felt cozy and inviting. I ordered a large latte and found a spot by the window. Everything seemed normal as ever. As I was savoring my coffee, a young man in a Starbucks uniform approached me. He looked to be in his 20s with neatly trimmed short hair and a friendly smile. "Hello, sir," he said warmly. "We have a special promotion today. If you leave your phone number, we'll give you a free coffee coupon." The offer caught me off guard, but his uniform and confident demeanor made me think nothing of it. "Sure," I replied. "That sounds great." I gave him my phone number, and he thanked me politely before walking away. Time passed, and I finished my coffee, ready to leave. When I went to the counter to pay, I casually asked the barista about the promotion. To my surprise, her response made me uneasy. "We don't have any promotions today, and we haven't asked any employees to collect phone numbers," she said with a puzzled look. I felt a pang of unease but brushed it off, thinking it might have been an enthusiastic part-timer with his own marketing ideas. I returned home and soon forgot about the incident, immersing myself in the rest of my weekend. However, this was just the beginning. That evening, my phone started buzzing with calls and texts from unknown numbers. At first, I assumed they were ordinary spam calls and ignored them. But as time went on, the harassment became more frequent. The messages turned increasingly explicit and threatening, with some even revealing personal details about my life, which terrified me. The following days were a nightmare. Every time my phone rang, my heart would race. Finally, I decided to take action. I went to the local police station, explained my situation, and handed over screenshots of the harassing messages. The police took my statement and suggested I contact Starbucks management to see if they could identify the imposter. Early the next morning, I returned to Starbucks and spoke to the manager, describing what had happened. The manager's face turned serious, and he immediately pulled up the surveillance footage from that day. We could clearly see the man approaching my table and talking to me. But strangely, he hadn't come from the back room nor had he interacted with any other employees. "He's not one of our employees," the manager said calmly. "We've never seen this person before." Hearing this, a chill ran down my spine. Who was this person? Why did he pose as a Starbucks employee to get my phone number? My mind was flooded with questions and fear. The manager suggested I contact the police again and provide the surveillance footage as evidence. When I got home, I immediately called the police and described the new developments. They assured me they would investigate further and advised me to stay vigilant. Despite this, I felt no sense of security. Every night, I double-checked the locks on my doors and windows, always feeling like someone was watching me. The harassing messages kept coming, their content becoming more violent and threatening. there were nights when I heard strange footsteps outside my window, each step pounding like a drum in my heart. The police investigation was slow. They informed me that the person had left no obvious clues, making it extremely difficult to track him down. The phone numbers he used were disposable virtual numbers, making it hard to trace his real identity. As time went on, my life was on the verge of collapse. I was too afraid to go out alone and even moved in with a friend, hoping to escape this nightmare. My friends were shocked and outraged by my ordeal and tried their best to comfort me, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Just when I thought the nightmare would never end, there was a breakthrough. One morning, I received a call from the police. They told me they had arrested a suspect in a series of raids who was involved in multiple cases of online fraud and harassment. Among his possessions, they found information on many victims, including me. The police said the suspect was the man who had posed as a Starbucks employee. He used his disguise and clever tactics to obtain personal information from numerous people, harassing and extorting them. My case was just one of his many crimes, and he likely chose me simply because I happened to be there that day. Even though he was arrested, the fear never truly left me. Every time I visit a Starbucks now, I can't help but look over my shoulder, wondering if someone is watching me. Story 3. 2 years ago, on a crisp autumn afternoon in Atlanta, I decided to spend a few leisurely hours at my local Starbucks. It was my little escape from the busy world, a place where I could relax with a warm cup of coffee and catch up on work. The cafe wasn't too crowded but wasn't empty either, providing the perfect atmosphere for relaxation. I ordered a large cappuccino and found a seat by the window. Sunlight streamed through the glass, casting a warm, inviting glow on the table. I opened my laptop, ready to tackle some overdue emails. Before long, my phone rang. It was an important work call. I picked up my phone and stepped outside to a quiet spot to take the call. The call turned out to be more complex than I anticipated and lasted about 20 minutes. When I hung up and returned to my seat, I noticed something odd about my coffee cup. Although it was still the same paper cup, its position was slightly different from where I had left it. A strange feeling hit me. My gut told me something was wrong. I felt a vague sense of unease but couldn't pinpoint exactly why. I decided not to drink the coffee. My intuition told me it was better to be safe than sorry. I continued working, but each time I lifted the cup to take a sip, my apprehension grew stronger. Ultimately, I pushed the cup aside and left it untouched. The next morning, I woke up feeling very sick. I had a severe headache, nausea, and extreme fatigue. At first, I thought it was just a common cold, but as the symptoms worsened, I began to suspect it might be related to the coffee. The thought terrified me. I decided to return to Starbucks and explain the situation to the manager. The manager took my concerns seriously and immediately pulled up the surveillance footage from when I left my seat. We watched as an unknown man approached my table during my absence. He glanced around, making sure no one was watching, then quickly swapped my coffee cup with another one. The whole process took less than a minute, but he seemed very composed. Seeing this made my heart race. The manager promptly called the police and handed over the surveillance footage. The police arrived, took my statement in detail, and questioned other customers and staff. Meanwhile, I was taken to the hospital for examination. The tests revealed that there were indeed some abnormal chemicals in my system. The doctor said I was lucky because I had only taken a small sip. A few more could have had serious consequences. The police investigation began, and they identified the stranger from the footage. He was a regular at that Starbucks and seemed to have chosen me as a target deliberately. As the investigation progressed, the police discovered that he was involved in several similar cases, targeting customers who drank alone with unclear intentions. They found that he often targeted people who looked distracted or busy, making it easier for him to tamper with their drinks without being noticed. The police managed to gather enough evidence to raid his apartment. There, they found various chemicals and a list of potential victims. Eventually, the man was arrested during a police raid. Through interrogation, it was confirmed that he was a repeat offender who had often drugged people in public places for purposes including extortion, theft, and other criminal activities. He chose locations like Starbucks because of the high foot traffic, making it easier to blend in. This experience left me deeply shaken. Now, whenever I go to a cafe, I can't help but feel anxious. I always keep a close watch on my surroundings and never leave my drink unattended. The memory of that autumn afternoon still haunts me, a reminder of how quickly an ordinary day can turn into a nightmare. In the weeks following the incident, I found it hard to focus on anything. The thought of what could have happened kept playing in my mind. I started having nightmares about being poisoned, waking up in a cold sweat. I even installed extra security measures at my home, afraid that someone might target me again. My friends and family were supportive, but they couldn't fully understand the fear I felt. One evening, as I was trying to relax at home, I received a call from the police. They had more information about the man who had tampered with my drink. He had been part of a larger criminal network that targeted individuals in public places, using similar tactics to drug and rob them. This revelation was both relieving and terrifying. While it meant that the person responsible was part of a bigger operation, it also meant that there could be others out there using the same methods. I started attending therapy to deal with the anxiety and fear that had taken over my life. The therapist helped me work through my trauma, teaching me coping mechanisms to manage my fear. Gradually, I began to feel a bit more secure, but the vigilance never left me. Every time I walked into a cafe or any public place, I couldn't help but scan my surroundings, looking for anything out of the ordinary. The experience had changed me. I became more cautious, more aware of the people around me. I installed security apps on my phone, learned about personal safety measures, and even took a self-defense class. I didn't want to live in fear, but I knew I had to be prepared for anything. Story 4. One Saturday afternoon, I decided to visit Starbucks. I wanted to enjoy a latte and use their free Wi-Fi. The cafe was busy with people chatting and working. I found a quiet corner, opened my laptop, and got ready to work. I connected to what I thought was the Starbucks Wi-Fi. It seemed normal. I started working, but soon noticed my internet was very slow. I tried restarting my computer and reconnecting to the Wi-Fi, but nothing worked. Then, I realized something was wrong. The network name was slightly different from the real Starbucks Wi-Fi. I felt a cold chill run down my spine. I had connected to a fake network. Quickly, I disconnected and shut down all network access on my computer, but it was too late. Soon after, I received email notifications from my bank and other accounts. Someone had accessed my accounts and made unauthorized transactions. My heart pounded. I contacted my bank and reported the problem. They told me to change my passwords immediately and freeze my accounts. I felt helpless. I told the Starbucks staff about the fake Wi-Fi. They promised to investigate. After many stressful calls, my bank froze my account, and some of the stolen money was recovered. But the loss was still significant. This incident taught me to be more careful with public Wi-Fi. The fear didn't leave me. Every time I enter a Starbucks now, I feel uneasy. I see people connecting to Wi-Fi, and it reminds me of that day. I learned to always check the network name and to be cautious of my online security. This experience was a harsh reminder that even in a familiar place, danger can be just a click away. After the incident, I couldn't shake off the paranoia. I started getting anxious every time I had to connect to Wi-Fi in public places. I even bought a portable hotspot to avoid using public Wi-Fi. My friends laughed at first, but they understood after I explained what had happened. I also installed multiple security programs on my devices to safeguard against future attacks. A few weeks later, I received a call from the police. They had traced the fake Wi-Fi network to a local hacker who had been targeting customers at various coffee shops. This person had a history of cyber crimes and was known for setting up fake networks to steal personal information. The police had managed to track him down through a series of digital breadcrumbs he had carelessly left behind. The hacker was arrested, and during the investigation, the police found detailed logs of all the people he had scammed. My name was on the list, along with many others. Knowing that he had been caught gave me some relief, but the fear of being targeted again never fully went away. In the months that followed, I took every precaution to protect my digital life. I changed all my passwords, set up two-factor authentication on all my accounts, and regularly monitored my financial statements for any unusual activity. The experience had made me hyper-aware of my online presence and the potential dangers lurking in the digital world. One night, while reading about similar cyber crimes, I realized how common these attacks had become. It wasn't just about public Wi-Fi. Hackers could target anyone, anywhere. I decided to share my story online to warn others about the risks and to offer tips on how to stay safe. The response was overwhelming. Many people shared their own experiences, and it felt good to know that my story might help someone avoid a similar fate. Despite the measures I took, the paranoia lingered. Every time I used my laptop in public, I would constantly check my surroundings, making sure no one was watching me. I started avoiding public Wi-Fi altogether, opting to use my phone's data connection instead. My life had changed in ways I hadn't expected, all because of one careless click. This experience taught me the importance of digital security and vigilance. It's easy to become complacent, thinking that nothing bad will happen to us. But the truth is, danger can be just around the corner, even in the most familiar places. We need to stay alert, protect our information, and always be cautious because you never know when a simple action might lead to a real-life horror story.